Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge news. New York Post, 15 taped conversations with Hunter, 2 with Joe, Chuck Grassley. Washington, the Federal Bureau of Investigation source who reported President Biden's alleged role in a felony scheme said a businessman from a certain country being invaded under Biden's watch claimed to keep insurance, 15 audio recordings of the first son and 2 of our current president. A Republican Senator, Chuck Grassley, revealed Monday. Chuck Grassley made the claim in a Senate floor speech after Federal Bureau of Investigation Director Christopher Wray last week allowed House Oversight Committee members to see an informant file about the claim that Hunter and then Vice President Joe Biden received $5 million apiece, $10 million total, from the oil and gas company that hired Hunter. $10 million for altering U.S. foreign policy. This is according to the New York Post. I'm not making it up. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'm not making anything up. Fox News, Grassley, the executive of the oil and gas company within the country invaded under Biden's watch for the past year. I hope that ends. But like I said, without Trump, you've ushered in never-ending military conflict. Trump, it was a moral imperative to have voted for him. It was a moral imperative because his foreign policy promoted negotiation, peace deals, détente, not never-ending military conflict. He opposed never-ending military conflict. That's what Trump was about. That's why I love Trump. Because he's against never-ending military conflict. But again, when you have money, hundreds of millions, tens of millions of dollars going to Joe and Hunter in bank accounts linked to corporations that are owned by Hunter and that Joe knows about. So Joe lied, our president, the good and wonderful and morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat, lied about his son's business dealings. And people at the Federal Bureau of Investigation almost certainly know. Chuck Grassley knows. If Chuck Grassley, I do a good Chuck Grassley imitation, I think. I won't do it now, but here, Daily Mail, Republican says foreign national at center of Biden felony scheme pertaining to bribes has recordings of 17 phone calls with Joe and Hunter. They're on tape. Remember when Trump was on tape saying that he didn't declassify something? Joe is on tape also of bragging and boasting about forcing a prosecutor out and withholding $1 billion in loan guarantees. Now he's on tape. I mean, look, it's not difficult, ladies and gentlemen. Impeachment has already begun. So Trump has now 17 tapes through Chuck Grassley and other senators. Chuck Grassley is an amazing man. I think that he perhaps started off, his tenure in Congress as more of an establishment Republican. But he really is, he's 89 years old, and he's at the forefront of going up against a very corrupt Washington establishment. And Chuck Grassley is an amazing human being. But you have, you have Fox News, New York Post, Daily Mail. You have audio recordings now of officials within that within that government, or also within that government, from what I've read, within the government, that sorry. The audio is from a person who had inside knowledge, a businessman from that country who worked with Hunter and Joe. And so you better believe there are probably numerous recordings, not just one recording. When somebody says I have a recording or a tape, there are numerous copies. So you have numerous copies. And that means impeachment, maybe numerous impeachments, but definitely an impeachment. So Trump now has the momentum on his side. Trump has momentum on his side. So you think that Trump, he's being arraigned, has a second indictment. This is all to protect one political party, the Democratic Party, and a Washington establishment from the actual crimes that they've committed, serious felonies. We know there's a double standard. We know that they get away with infinitely more than Trump could ever have gotten away with. And, I mean, when you think about all the pundits out there, all of the wonderful progressive or liberal pundits who have millions of subs and, who write at, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone, Washington Post, New York Times, do they not understand that the whole world sees what I see and what you see? If you're watching this channel right now and you're a morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat, and you've stumbled upon H.A. Goodman on YouTube, please hit subscribe, but also ask yourself a question. Do you think that most people or everyone on the planet, do you think that people don't see the double standard? Do you think that a double standard is okay? That if you're a Democrat, you can get away with pretty much anything? And if you're Trump, oh my God. So there's a recording of Trump, but there was a recording of Biden and nobody cared. And there are recordings now, secret recordings, 17 of them, talking about a $10 million bribe. And so you have a situation where a corporation in another country that, by the way, Biden visited numerous times. You have a situation where you're talking about kickbacks, bribery, graft, and you're talking about altering U.S. foreign policy, not boxes of classified markings. This is another indictment destined to go nowhere, even if they convict Trump, and the judge will give jury instructions that will almost certainly either acquit him, but let's say they convict him. Let's just say, hypothetically, they convict him. It'll be overturned by the Supreme Court because Jack Smith's prior conviction in Virginia of the governor there was overturned by the Supreme Court for the same types of reasons. They go after people with vague terminology, ambiguous indictments. Well, he did this and he did that, and you have no evidence that when Trump is on tape saying he had a classified document, but he didn't declassify it. You have no clue if he already classified it, and he's just speaking in hyperbolic terms. So he's always telling the truth when it suits Democrats, but he's a habitual liar all the time. So which one is it? He only tells the truth on a hot mic or whenever it suits Democrats when they're trying to indict him. And this is not about the rule of law. Boxes have they're not even in the same universe as computer servers. So you have, ladies and gentlemen, a double standard, but also you have a reason. Here's the reason they're indicting Trump, because they actually did commit felonies. They get away with their felonies because they have virtually the entire media narrative and social media algorithms. Okay, we couldn't talk about Hunter's laptop 2 years ago. Okay, think about that. In a society that claims to be free, where Washington Post says democracy perishes in darkness, the darkness seems to always benefit the Democratic Party, though. When we can't talk about a specific, or you can't even repeat anything that Trump said about what, certain events. You can't say anything. It's interesting because it's phrased as we want to protect you from the harmful sentiments of Trump. The reality is, those sentiments, maybe a distrust of the Democratic Party, are prevailing emotions throughout a great many people in the country, actually almost half the electorate. Trump gets almost half. He doesn't get the popular vote. How can you if you have 95% negative media coverage? It is impossible to get the popular vote if the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, Atlantic, Vanity Fair, it's impossible to get the popular vote. But if you get almost half the electorate, think about that. That's another reason they're indicting Trump. I mean, they indict him, he still gets almost half the electorate. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe.